Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue Paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, Flyers off season is here, and so are the winds of change. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. As always, I am your host, Lance Green.
And as always, I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And Lance, my friend, I got to tell you, how you doing, my friend?
I am all right.
You're doing all right?
Watching some playoff hockey.
Definitely watching some playoff hockey. And folks, I got to tell you, man, when you watch playoff hockey and then you look at the Flyers, ooh. We far away from where playoff hockey is right now. So, woo, okay. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there. But we are excited to bring you another great episode of the Hockey Writers Ink. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. Got a lot of great things we want to get into. Even though the Flyers are in the offseason and they're not really playing any hockey games right now, but we still got a lot of things to talk about because a lot of things are going on. So here we go, folks. Episode number 120. Brought to you by SteelFlyers.com. Flyers offseason is here. And so are the winds of change. That's right, folks. Episode 120. Flyers off season is here, and so are the winds of change. And boy, we have seen it since the complete and utter admittance to the fans and to the media and everybody else when Chuck Fletcher was let go. I believe that. Right. At that point, I believe the Flyers' entire organization let out a collective, okay, we're sorry. We fired him. Okay? I mean, it just kind of feels like that to you or to me. What do you think?
I mean, I think it was a long time coming for sure. I think we called it for a year or two ago. It should have happened. It was strung out and, partially because I think, he had friends high and above him, but then, certain people got moved in and those people got moved out as well. So,
exactly.
It goes without saying it needs to happen. Now we got at least a start in the right direction, hopefully. We got rid of the problem and now we're going to get into talking about, the future, how the offseason has already started for the Flyers and their way that they're going to try to mend things and rebuild this team.
I think that's the key factor in this whole thing here that everybody's overlooked, and everybody keeps saying, and I keep hearing this murmuring of, well, they're this, they're that, they're this, they're that. And then when you listen to the whole, the interviews that we heard from Danny and from Torts, right? And we'll get into those.
Right.
This team is still pretty far away. Okay, we're still.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, when coaching and management is talking about the fact that we're still asking the fans and the media to say, hey, look, we're still going to be losing games. If you have to tell them that from the beginning and be like, hey, look, okay, we said the rebuild word, but we're still into that. We're still in that mode of losing. Okay, so now what? You know what I mean? That's kind of where.
Well, I agree. But I think it needed to be said because I don't think we as Flyer fans get what a rebuild is really, because the Flyers have been good for so long and a playoff contender generally. And
I think that had a lot to do with who was in the general manager chair, though.
But
and
it
who
had to
was
do a lot with the
ownership.
fact that yes, who had ownership for sure, but it also had to do with the fact that they didn't have a salary cap, and Ed Snyder had no problem in spending ungodly amounts of money to make his team competitive. But now it's different. You have to build through the draft, as we're seeing, and you can't just have a great offseason by signing 5 or 6 free agents, or a post getting ready for a postseason and trading for every quality guy that used to be a big name to help you out through the playoffs. So
That's right.
it's different. It's different. So I think Briere and Tortorella were right in coming out and telling fans, hey, look, this isn't going to happen overnight, and it's still going to have to go through some pain to get through, get to where we want to be, per se. So, I'm ready to now that it has been said, let's buckle down. Let's get these top 5 picks or top 10 picks for a couple years and really get some good candidates and some prospects coming in here. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to have to take. First off, we can't just, like Tortorella said, you can't just go out at this offseason and think you can buy anybody you want, because who the heck's going to want to come here to begin with? The team's in shambles. You're going to have to get a couple of nice pieces out of the draft to spark some interest from free agents to even want to come here. Okay, again.
Yep.
So, yeah. But let's get into some of these exit interviews.
And you're going to have to trade away some of the pieces too in order to get some more pieces
Sure.
I mean, it's a huge conglomeration. And I would just wanted to point out that there was a level of passion, and yes, there was no salary cap and things of that nature, and I understand that, but there was a level of passion and a sense of urgency with ownership and even management at the time, throughout Ed Snyder's ownership of the team, where there was that sense of urgency to get things done so that the team could be better and win. I don't have that feeling ever since he's passed, that sense of urgency to get the team to a contention type of level. And it just seems like they've been just kind of wallowing through the mud at things. And we were talking about this last February, that this needed to happen and that this Band-Aid needed to be ripped off last February. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine if the team had done that then, had ripped it off last February? Do you know what I'm saying? There could have been a different level of coaching available at the time. There could have been a different level of a general management at the time as well that they could have brought in. And this team could be a much different team than where it is even right now. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of decisions that were made in the past that's now affecting this team now. And so this current regime, whether it's going to be Danny B or whoever they want to bring in, and is this how it's going to, I mean, are they perpetuating the mistake by having Danny B as being the general manager and then getting the hockey ops and then getting do you know what I'm saying? I mean, these are all things some of the things we talked about last week with Isaiah, from O&B. And so let me ask you, Lance, what are your thoughts on, look, we know that there's that position. They want to have that position of hockey ops in the Flyers organization, right? And to me, that's going to have to be somebody that can be the liaison between the the general manager and the ownership. I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, give me your thoughts on this whole hockey ops thing.
Well, the president of Hockey Ops, let's back that up. Before even that, I think the Flyers organization really needs to get rid of Valerie Camillo as well. I don't really like her in that position as president and CEO of a Spectacor. She was kind of under, Dave Scott, and I think she has a little too much power and not enough knowledge of
Is she
what
gonna? But is she
needs to be
gonna
done
be
with the
under
Flyers.
Is she gonna be under Helferty?
She is currently, yes.
Okay, all right. So she's
So
still in the same position that she was in with
yeah,
Dave Scott. Only now Helferty's now the.
yes.
Okay, all right, all right.
Yep.
Go
So
ahead.
that's what I think. First off, that needs to be happening. But as
Okay.
far as president of Hockey Ops goes, I don't think he wants it. Danny Briere, I think the GM, like any great player, when you hang up the skates, what do you want to do? Hey, I could build a team. Everybody thinks they can do that. They can either think they can coach or they can build a team and be a GM. And that's not always the case, right?
Right.
That's not always the case. But as much as I like Danny Briere, I think he would benefit from being president of hockey operations. I think if Valerie's going to stay, Valerie is the person that kind of pushed him along the way to go back to college and do all this stuff to be able to get to this point, and kind of gave him that job in the ECHL with the Comcast-owned team, and let him be a GM there and gain the experience and all this stuff. So she's been kind of dragging him along
Oh yeah,
because she likes him. So I think he would much better the team as president of hockey operations as kind of that in-between person. Would I want to see him get a shot at GM? Maybe, but I don't think he's experienced enough for me. And with the Flyers being rumored to interview this Emillie Castonguay, I don't know, I can't even pronounce her name, but from the Vancouver Canucks, the assistant GM for them. Now, I really don't like. I'm not saying that a woman isn't worthy of working in that position, because I think Alexandria, who is assistant GM with the Kraken, has done an amazing job there.
Oh yeah,
she's an analytics. She's an analytics genius as well. But this Emillie character, for me, just doesn't have what it takes at this point to be promoted to hockey operations, president of hockey operations. She's only had 2 years of an experience in Vancouver as, in that. And for me, I want to pull from a team that's winning. All right. Vancouver's finished 11th this year. You got to think they fired their coach the same time we fired AV last year and hired Boudreau, and have since fired Boudreau again. Another coach. So not the greatest track record. Doesn't really impress me with her background. She played a little bit of hockey, and that's great, but just doesn't have that years of experience that you want from a president of hockey operations, in my mind.
Well,
and plus, I think she wants to bring Granato with her, who's been there in Vancouver. And I'm not sold on that as well. Like, you're bringing in whoever you want. I'd much rather see a person like Ray Shierro come in, who's done everything. He's been president of hockey ops. He's been a GM before. He's done everything. He's worked his way up. He has years and years and years of experience. He's built cup contending teams before. Yeah. But rumor is with that, is even though he has a ton of experience, and I think he would be great in that spectrum of job skill, he's rumored to want to build a team again, and I think he wants to be a GM. And if Danny Briere's sounds like he's going to be gifted that job, and they're going to lift that interim.
Well, I don't think
he's
necessarily. I don't think he's fighting that though either. I think Danny Briere wants to keep that general manager job. And you know what, though, Lance? I'm 100% behind
That's
you
what I'm
on
saying.
this.
I think he does.
Because I
Yeah.
agree. I think that Danny Briere would be a much better. It would be much better, I think, for the Flyers organization, and I think it would be much better for him if he was president of hockey operations, because that would then put him into a position to select a general manager and an assistant general manager to come in. And quite frankly, that's a much smaller team to build than it is to try to build a 23-man roster. You know what I'm trying to say? So you really haven't got the experience of building a roster to the extent that you are able to take a full-on GM position right now. I think at best he should be hockey ops. At worst, he should be assistant general manager. Okay.
Yeah. I think you gotta build yourself up and work at every level there. You know, I just don't see how these guys can just jump up there.
See, I think that the only reason why that was brought like that was because he was the assistant to the general manager's special position that he was gifted, whatever.
Some made up job. Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna fire the GM, why isn't the assistant GM then named the interim? Do you know what I'm saying? And the fact that Danny Briere came out and said that he still likes Brett Flair.
I don't like that either. Yeah, I don't like that either.
So
a team who is surprising me some in this aspect is the Penguins, who I think are moving in the right direction with who they have been rumored to talk to as a replacement for Ron Hextall, and that is the Hurricanes assistant general manager, who I've written many articles about before and everything.
That's who we want.
Said that I want him. Right, Eric Toslowski, former Flyers beat writer and analytics genius, an actual genius who got bored doing whatever, amazing job he had as a scientist or whatever he did, and just decided to, let me try this hockey thing. And he's amazing at it as well. So if the Penguins pull that off, I think we're in trouble. Because if we're sitting there trying to play, the great thing and bring in the first female president of hockey ops or whatever the case may be, or replace with some first general manager, and I'm fine if they're qualified, but I don't think this Emillie character is qualified.
Well, let's not
for that promotion at this point.
Let's not say that. I'm with you, but let's hold off on whether or not we think she's a character or not. Let's just say that we feel that her resume right now doesn't necessarily meet up to qualifications for the job. I would love to see.
Not when we're talking Ray Shiero's out there or something like that, with 20, 30 years of experience and cup rings on his fingers.
Okay, and so now, if that's going to be the case, if they are going to go this direction, then is it me or is it the person's job of hockey operations to hire the general manager and the assistant general manager? Or
normally.
Okay, so how do you have a general manager position and you have to backfill the president of hockey ops position? Well, I think the best way to do that is to backfill that with the quote unquote interim general manager and make him the president of hockey ops, and you allow him to then select a general manager to be able to come in and be that person and select the assistant general manager, or allow the general manager to come in and select his assistant.
Well, I think that plays into his inexperience, Danny Briere's inexperience. And I think that's why they interviewed this lady, because she was an agent. So she's handled contracts before a lot. And I think she did Lafayette or whatever for the Rangers, his #1 overall pick that kind of was a flop or whatever. She handled him, as an agent, and then moved on to the general manager, assistant general manager type stuff.
But that's what scares me, Lance. That whole part of her being the assistant general manager of Vancouver, I'm so 100% with you on why are you picking from losers? Okay, this team thought they were going to bring Bruce Boudreau in, and I thought that was an amazing selection to bring him in.
Right.
And then less than a calendar year after you give him a 3-year extension, you fire him, and then you bring in, wait for it, Rick Tocchet. Okay.
That's
now you understand.
They're making worse decisions than they're making worse decisions than the Flyers right now.
Yeah, right.
No, so that's what I'm scratching my head on this interview. Why would this person even be interviewed if they're not doing any better than us in theory?
Okay, right. So there you go. So we both agree that we think that Danny Briere would be a good hockey ops guy, right? Or even Shero or anything along those lines, but somebody who has that kind of level of experience. Would they be able to bring him in or whatever the case is? I would think that now, quote unquote, now there would be the open checkbook, you know what I mean, to bring in any kind of management that you would feel that could be a good advisories to making sure that this team is headed in the right direction. Okay. So, well,
yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have traded Bo Horvat either, but I don't know.
So that's what I mean. I'm questioning a lot of what's happened in Vancouver.
A lot of what happens. Yes.
2 years, when you look at what they've done as far as free agencies, as far as how they've been able to sign their own players, and then you look at what's going on in the locker room, and the fact that 3 coaches have now gone through that organization in 2 years. You know what I mean? And it was Paul Maurice who stepped away and said that they weren't even getting the message, and he had to step away. So, I mean, unless that was Winnipeg, I could be wrong, but
that was Winnipeg. That was Winnipeg. Yeah.
Oh, it was Winnipeg.
Now we're getting off topic.
Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that they had that many issues in Vancouver that they had to bring a coach in halfway through the year, being Bruce Boudreau, right? And do that, and then less than a calendar year after they give him a 3-year extension, they fire him and bring in Rick Tocchet, and that's not very smart thinking as far as I'm concerned, because I think Bruce Boudreau was probably one of the better coaches you could have possibly have brought in for your team. He, you know what I mean, if given the opportunity, but I don't think you gave him the opportunity. But hey, that's just me. All right. So now that we've discussed who we feel would be, so our ideal lineup would be president of hockey ops would be Danny Briere, and then we would have Eric Terlesky from Carolina be our general manager. And then whomever he would select as his assistant general manager, right?
Right.
And then Tortorella as coach, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you let him keep going here, but that's yeah.
Okay.
But that's up to
he's on for 4 years.
Up to the powers that be coming in.
Right.
Yeah.
He has a 4-year contract. I honestly have to tell you, there's a few coaches that I would fire as soon as the season is over and or as soon as I could. One of them being Rocky Thompson. I'm surprised he is even still with the team, because how do you have such quote unquote young talent and yet have the last place power play period? The fact that the team that he came from, he was only at 14.6. The team was only at 15.2. You're still last place. It hasn't gotten any better. You had much more talent on this team than you did with the San Jose team, and you did, and you still couldn't get it together. So why does he still have a job? Okay, the next person.
Good question.
The next person that I would get rid of right off the bat, I mean, yeah, I understand. And we're going to talk about these guys here in a little minute because we're really happy about this. But I'm not really excited about Ian LaPerriere as being coach of the Phantoms. I'm really not. Well, I didn't see guys progress. I've seen guys that have gotten opportunities and have taken advantage of their opportunities, but I'm not seeing a progression of skills per se. I mean, guys have natural skills and talents that are getting them where they are, but I don't like the fact that he's not running the same system that Tortorella's running with the big club. That really irks me. You know?
I mean, I agree. Rocky Thompson, I mean, why is a guy, a fighter, who's never scored a single goal in the NHL running a power play? That makes no sense.
Did you hear that, folks? Hasn't scored a goal in the NHL, and he played for how many years?
Well, he played for a lot of years, but he was like AHL up to NHL for a couple of games, back down to the AHL. But he never scored an NHL goal, and you got this guy running the power play and supposed to be the savior to fix it. I don't get it. And, you know, it didn't surprise me when the Flyers were the last place team in power play goals when you have this guy running it who's never scored an NHL goal. So I don't know. I mean, coaches, some people could say, you know, coaches can coach and bad players can make good coaches, but I don't know. Call me crazy. Well, a guy who's never scored an NHL goal is running a power play on how to score goals. I don't get it.
So one of the things,
Ian LaPerriere, head coach, a fighter, running systems. What was his system? Go out there and punch that guy in the face.
And
go out there and lay down and block a shot.
Yeah, and block punch with your face. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so this is the next thing that I want to get into. We're going to be talking about the two pressers that happened between Danny Briere and Tortorella. And I listened to both of them as best as I could. I tried to have an open mind and an optimistic heart. Okay? When listening to these guys talk. Some of it sounded very repetitive. Some of it sounded like, especially Tortorella's, he said a lot of the same things he said throughout most of the year. You know what I mean? But some of the things I'm concerned about, and that's the whole, I think they're putting the cart before the horse by having Danny Briere as a general manager and not having hockey ops and carrying on Brent Flahr from the previous administration. I think that's wrong. I disagree with Danny. I think he needs to not like his scouting staff. I think he needs to love his scouting staff. Okay? What that means, you need to get people in there that you love that know what the frick they're doing. Okay? Those are some of the things that were red flags for me in Danny Briere's. Some of the red flags for me in Tortorella's were not mentioning of players. That was also part of Danny Briere's thing too. They're not mentioning players. Why not? We're at the end of the year. What does it matter now, right? If you're not going to be with a guy, if the guy's not going to be part of the team, he's not part of the crew, then hey man, we're going to do our best and help him get wherever he needs to go. But this is what we're doing. You already came out and said it's going to be a rebuild. Well, hey, then you're going to trade Hayes. You're going to try to trade this guy. You're going to try to trade that guy. Yes, there's going to have to be subtraction. Who's it going to be? They're not going to give me a number. Well, okay, great. I don't need a number, but what are you going to do? Give me some idea. Give me some direction. Okay, that's kind of what I was looking for. So what were your thoughts on Danny's interview?
Well, you know, I think, like you said, Danny seemed a lot of hopes and dreams coming out saying he wants to, you know, possibly move up in the draft or all this stuff. And he wants to do all this stuff. Well, that's all well and good. But how are you going to go about doing it? You haven't done it before. So how are you going to go about doing it? Are you going to listen to Brent Flahr? Because that hasn't worked out in Minnesota or here.
I mean, hello.
You know what I mean? Who do you have? You don't have a president of hockey operations right now that has been in your shoes and can advise you.
Yeah.
So it sounds good. Let me just say it sounds good from what I'm hearing from Danny Briere. But my question is, where's Dean Lombardi in this? You know, he's been around the team and been an advisor, been all kinds of whatever the heck, a senior advisor for the Flyers for some time. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. Why not make him a hockey advisor in a sense? I mean, he's been a scout, he's been a president, he's been a general manager. Wow. He's been a senior advisor. I don't really like that situation, but even that would make more sense to me than pulling out the people that they've been rumored to interview and rumored to like. I don't get it. Tortorella, in my mind, it surprised me. He said, you know, and a lot of players talking too, they said they didn't have a lot of conversations with Tortorella. They knew what to expect. They went out there and tried to do their best because they know if they didn't, he would bench them. And I don't know. I think he needs to be able to talk to his players some more to coach them. I don't know. A lot of them just said they didn't have a whole lot of conversations. They tried to avoid them at all costs, and maybe that was the ones that didn't really want to buy into the system or whatever. Anyway, but one thing I like about what Tortorella said was he spoke really high of Risto, and that kind of surprised me, but I kind of liked it in a sense because he said he was just awful when the season started, but he began to move his legs and play the way they needed him to play down the stretch or whatever like that. You know, I could take or leave Risto. I don't think you're going to be able to move that contract. I think there's others that you're going to want to move first. You know,
you got to take the low-hanging fruit first, man. You can't. You're going to have to because you're not going to be able to do anything at least this first year.
Right, and I mean, like I said, I hear a lot of what Danny Briere is saying and all the stuff he wants to get done, and it's going to take time, yes. But I don't think Ristolainen's going to be getting moved. He's a career minus 176. So I don't think a guy making $5+ million and a career minus 176 is going to be able to be moved. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't care how big he is. I don't care how physical he is. I don't think you're going to get people to buy that contract.
I didn't feel that his play warranted the money that he received.
Absolutely not.
I feel that at best he was already making more than what he should have been being paid when he first came to the Flyers, and his play has proven to be exactly that. He's only worth about $2.5-3 million a year. He's not.
Exactly.
He's not
a top. A good point.
He's not a top 4 defenseman. He's maybe a part of the 6, but he's not a top 4 defenseman. He's just not. He should not be on the power play. Okay, okay, right. So, did he play better towards the end? Okay, but you just got a big raise, and we had to wait for you to at the end to start playing better. Yeah, how soon can we lose that?
Like I said, I don't think you're going to be able to.
I'm not married to any single player on this team at all. Not married to any single one of them. Because if one of them can go to make this team better, see ya. You have to have that mentality at this point because you don't have any money to do anything, right? And everybody, and Tortorella talked about it, Danny talked about it. Subtraction. We're not going to give you numbers, but we just need to know that there's going to be subtraction. Look, we already know that. Okay.
Right.
Everybody's talking about, oh yeah, they could just move this player, and oh, they could just move that player. No, really, they can't, because A, it's not financially advantageous for them to do so. B, it would still strap them. C, why would you waste your money? Right?
If you're other teams, yeah.
If you're another team, and who's going to take some of these albatross contracts without you having to eat some of this money? Look, I've heard I've heard from numerous folks and other places and the whole 9 yards, and no matter how you slice it, if the Flyers are going to move any of these contracts, they're going to have to eat salary. And that's going to count against the cap. And that's going to prevent you from doing anything that you need to do as far as getting any kind of free agents. And that's why I was a little frustrated last week when we were talking to Isaiah, because I don't think he really understood the crux of that whole situation, to where you have this bank of players. All right, they're NCAA players that haven't been drafted, but I'm not telling you to fill the roster with them. I'm just telling you to give them a sniff, at least maybe sign a guy or two or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of talent down there. You know, that's all I was trying to say. You know what I mean? And that's where the Flyers are at this point, because these decisions that were made are hand tying you so bad that you're not going to be able to do anything until you start drafting some players. And that means you got to stink.
Yeah. And you got to have people to fill those spots that are okay in theory until you can get those guys developed and all that. And those NCAA free agents are the guys that could get you through. Not going to be, may not develop to be stars, but they may. You know, certain guys we talked about are, you know, beat, you know, the goaltender, you know, Yaniv Peretz, who the Flyers had in their camp this season. They didn't sign. They let go. He went back and won a national championship. Minnesota had, I believe, 14 players on their roster who have been drafted by NHL teams. And Quinnipiac had 2. So, you know, it's saying something. Yeah, he beat Michigan as well, who had ungodly amounts of first-round picks on that team, and Adam Fantilli, who's going to be number 2, number 3 overall pick. And he beat them as well. So, and you look at the teams that sign these guys. You look at Colorado. You look at the Hurricanes. These teams are playoff teams that are great. And that is how they are filling when they are doing good year in, year out, and year out.
Okay,
where they have to bring in people, next season to fill some holes, because some guys leave for bigger, better contracts with other teams. These guys just step up and fill that slot. And that's what the Flyers didn't do. So
let's face it, those two teams both have really good general managers. Right. Carolina and Colorado both have really good general managers and really know what they're doing, and has been able to just retool their goalie room 2 years in a row and still make it to the playoffs, and have been able to just lose guys left and right, and still the next guy steps up because they drafted him or because they're part of their farm team or whatever the case is, and boom, how you doing? That's the kind of way that you have to do it, and that's what Philadelphia has to get more closer to. Okay, the closer you get to that formula, the better I think the chances of the Flyers being in contention. This whole thing of thinking, oh well, we're still not that far away. Really, you still really are.
Bogus.
Yeah, that really is kind of a bogus thought. And look, I'm not trying to take anything away from this team. We want to see the team win. We want to see the team, you know, be successful. But we have to look at the reality of things. Rome was not built in a day, and this team is going to have to suck for a little while in order for it to get better, because you're going to have to go through the growing pains of, well, first you have to learn to lose. And then once you learn to lose, and this is all the things that Tortorella said, this is all the things that Danny Briere said, right? Once you learn to lose, well, then you can learn how to win. Right? Okay, yeah, but you need to have your guys all playing in the same systems, and you need to have all your guys here playing. But here's the thing that scares me the most. Cutter Gauthier didn't want to come here and play. He would much rather go back to college. That scares me. Yeah, I think it's best for him to go back to college, but the fact that he doesn't want to do it now, that scares me. Okay.
Doesn't want to turn pro and make millions of dollars. Yeah.
What?
Or 900,000. Yeah, that whatever.
What?
But let's talk about some of the subtraction. All right, that's going to need to happen. All right. Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes spoke in the exit interviews, and to me, he just seemed agitated and very uncertain of his situation right now with the Flyers. And I quote him, I'm turning 31. I picked up the message that was sent months ago. I don't think they want a guy making the money I'm making playing 9 to 10 minutes a game. That's the quote that stuck out to me. Kevin Hayes, I mean, in all actuality, he's making it quite easy for the Flyers to want to trade him. He didn't seem to get along with Tortorella very much. Yes, he was an all-star, but at the same token, after the all-star, I think he went 26 or 27 games without a goal.
27.
Very inconsistent for a guy. Very inconsistent for a guy making $7 million plus to me. And can you buy him out? Nah, that's going to cost you money, years and years and years. You're going to need to trade him. You're going to need to eat money for the rest of his contract. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the Flyers for time to come. Tony DeAngelo said he wants to be here next season. He grew up a Flyer fan. We all know that. It's his dream to play for them, and he still wants to. But he was quoted as saying, he thinks it's ridiculous that he didn't play for the last 5 games of the season.
I have a few thoughts about this whole Tony DeAngelo thing. The fact that there wasn't any communication, or quote unquote, there was communication between Tony DeAngelo and John Tortorella to the point of the fact that him telling him that he's scratched. And then there was no communication. And when you telling me and listening to the players, how they said that they avoided Tortorella and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like the guys that aren't going to be here are the guys that aren't talking to Tortorella, right? So I don't care what anybody says. Even Danny Briere said, yeah, we'd like to have, Tony DeAngelo back and, blah, blah, blah. We had some conversations and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Why bring him back? Why give yourself that headache? Why keep that stupid contract rolling? Why not cut ties and be done? Okay, the guy was not as good as advertised. Okay, the only reason why he was as good as he was is because look at who he played with. He played with Carolina, one of the best defenses on the frickin' planet. Okay, and if you take one guy out of that system. You take one guy out of that and think he's going to be this massive improvement for your team because he was the cog that held it all together in Carolina? Who are you kidding? Right? Who are you kidding?
He was a piece brought in for a year. Yeah.
He was only brought in here because Ellis can't play. He was only brought in because Ellis can't play. And they had to have that $5 or $6 million D man to be the spot. What? Right. Okay.
Yeah, I was saying in reference to Carolina, he was brought in. The system was already set.
Yeah.
They had already amazing defense. He was brought into Carolina to fill a spot for a season.
Yeah,
and they let him go because they found somebody better after him. And that's just that. But Ivan Provorov, another guy in question of getting traded, just didn't seem happy about Briere coming out and saying they are going to be in a rebuild. Quoting him, I feel like I came into a rebuild in 16-17 season, and since then we have only had one good year, and that was in the bubble. I don't think he's wrong there. I don't think he's wrong.
Can't argue with that kind of logic.
He's been asked to play a crap ton load of minutes. He's been asked to do power play. He's been asked to do penalty kill. He's been asked to do a lot. And in my mind, he is not a number one defenseman. He is a great number two. But the Flyers are trying to make him out to be a number one. Yeah. And he's just not that. And he's playing way too much. And he has to because there is nobody else.
Yep, overused and abused because there is nobody.
As they do. And then the next one's kind of null and void because he's an unrestricted free agent. But JVR was rightfully disappointed in my mind about not getting traded at the deadline. He's 33 years old. He might not get another chance to play for a contender and a chance at the Stanley Cup. And, the team couldn't even do him the service of trading him. I don't care what they got for him at that point. They didn't get anything.
I mean, a bag of
far
pucks
worse
would have
than
been
him
better than this.
than nothing. JVR was a far better player. He was the leading goal scorer for the Flyers last year. Okay,
If it wouldn't have
he's
been
been a 35-plus goal scorer in his career.
If it wouldn't have been for the 25 games that he missed this year because of a broken hand or a broken finger, he missed 25 games because of that. If it wouldn't have been for that, I think he would have been close to his usual 20 goals and whatever, you know what I mean? So that's the other thing, too, that whole thing that he wasn't traded and now he walks. The fact that you let Justin Braun retire. What? Why are we still talking about him? Okay, but I don't get it.
He should have been traded.
He should have been
traded yet again.
Back. He should have never been back.
Never.
Why are we still talking about him? Right? I don't get it. Right? You say you want to see the youth, yet you keep playing Justin Braun. How is that playing the youth? Right? Where's the youth in that? You say you want to see the youth come up and play, but yet you have guys like, Brown and
still playing.
And all these other. I mean, I
Sealer still playing, and I like Sealer, but
I like Sealer too. But
I'd rather see the youth. They know. They're out. They know they're out of the playoffs. Why have Sealer in some of those games towards the end? I don't know.
I see. That's what I'm talking about. So some of those decisions I'm questioning. With listening to the player interviews and the interviews with the coach and the interim general manager and everything else like that, it just seems like this team is still so disjointed. It seems like the coaching and the management staff are on the same page, however small that page may be, but it just doesn't seem like the team is on the same page. You got guys that are like, yeah, it was great, and we had, did an awesome, we didn't win as much, but, it's great playing under Torts. And then you got guys that are like, I'm 31 years old and nobody wants a, guy playing 9 minutes making $7.5 million. Well, yeah. If you were a hockey team, would you be okay with that too? Especially your level of play? I mean, okay. Here's the problem though. Provorov has no trade clause. I believe Hayes has a modified no trade clause. Sanheim has there's no trade clause for him at all. So Sanheim's contract you can't even touch. There's so many of these other guys that I wouldn't even bring back, like Frost and some of the other guys. I wouldn't even bring them back. Why? Okay, you've given these. It's like this whole Jay O'Brien thing, right? How long do we have to get down this Jay O'Brien road, right? Another first-round draft pick that they couldn't bring in. Now what?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jay O'Brien was 23 years old. He played in the Final Four. He's been injured. I don't know. He's been injured a little bit through college and stuff like that. He was a prospect that Hextall brought in. He's from 2018 first-round pick. And thus, they decided not to sign him. So they're going at some point to get a second-round pick for compensation for not signing him. But this year he scored 8 goals, 24 assists, 32 points in 39 games. He scored a lot more goals the season before. But I don't know. I mean, he just wasn't the guy. Previously, he was about a point-per-game player, looked to be ready to go, and I think he just stayed in college a little too long. He should have been brought in before on an entry-level contract this season and
maybe
let him see what he can do in the AHL.
Too. Maybe he was one of those types of guys that wasn't worth being a first-round pick. You know what I mean? So, okay, they're going to get a compensatory second-round pick for Jay O'Brien. Okay, right. That's one.
And it's not this season. That's going to happen 2024, hopefully.
And so that's one you got back for 2024. You still have 0 second-round picks for this coming draft. And folks, I'm going to tell you something, man. For the Flyers to not have a second-round pick in this year's draft is even more detrimental because the draft is so deep in offensive talent that you're going to have a lot of those players, not only offensive talent, but defensive talent as well. But you're going to have a lot of those players spill over into the second round, especially in the early part of the second round, where the Flyers would potentially be picking 8th, 9th, 7th, wherever they're going to land.
7th, yeah.
7th, right?
7th.
So
Yeah.
You get the 7th pick on the second round. That's still going to be a pretty darn tootin' good player. So you, in your first day or your first 2 days of the draft, you could get a first round pick. It's number 7th overall, who, hey man, could be Will Smith, could be Moore, could be, hey, pick anybody. I don't even care who you pick, right? I don't care. And then you get the 7th overall pick in the second round too. Hey, that's still going to be a guy that you could still put with that first round draft pick and bring up together because they're going to be that much talented. You know what I'm saying?
What could have been, yeah. But let's talk about some prospects that are actually promising, all right? That are in the playoffs in their divisions and stuff like that. Tyson Forster, we all know him, right? He came up and he looked pretty good.
Rally in the valley. Oh.
He looked pretty good up with the Flyers this season for a short stint before going back to the Phantoms to get ready for these playoffs. But as we talk right now, or as we're recording, they're playing in their second game. But
Charlotte.
In the first one against the Checkers, he scored 2 goals in his first game. So I think that is going to be a great person to join the Flyers potentially next year. And somebody to actually be excited about besides Owen Tippett in my mind. So great news there. Hopefully the Phantoms could go long and deep into this.
Emillie Andre was slamming bodies in game 1. Oh boy, he looked really good. He looked really, really good. And Ersson has played well here in the first game too. So I'm excited about some of these players coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited about that. You know what I mean? That's what we have to look forward to. We have looked forward to the Bobby Brinks. We have to look forward to the Tyson Forsters and, the Elliot Deonays, because he has been playing freaking lights out and even made the All-Star game and has just continued throughout the rest of the season. I mean, dude has been playing. Okay, another guy I'm really excited about is Elliot the Destroyer Deonay as well, being able to beat that. Why isn't he playing for the Flyers? Where's that been? You want to see the youth? Where's that? Right?
He came up for a couple of games, but he didn't have the success that Forrester did.
Right.
But one guy that is having a lot of success right now that's not in the AHL even, or not even signed yet, is Alexis Gendron. Now, this season in the Q, he's scored 55 goals during the regular season, 30 assists for 81 points, okay? And he's a 7th-round pick. He's a 2022 7th-round pick. He's just exploded this season, guys. And this postseason has been no different, scoring 12 goals and 4 assists for 16 points in just 9 games played. That means he's averaging 1.3 goals a game and 1.7 points per game right now. That's not too bad from a 7th-round pick. And I think that Danny should be there the moment they get eliminated from the playoffs or win the QMJHL playoffs and give him a
Be
contract in
there with a
hand
piece of paper
because
and pencil. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
he
just
needs
sign
to
your
be
name on the
there.
X.
Yeah, he needs to
Uh,
be in a Phantoms uniform at least next
at
season. I
least.
want to see him in camp
I'm
for
with you on
sure.
that. I'm
So
with you on that.
that is a bit of a bright spot to hopefully end this, with a couple of prospects that might be on the Flyers next year, might not be, but definitely up with the Phantoms hopefully and
Right.
progressing.
Right. Now we know that Zamula had successful shoulder surgery, but I look for him to be knocking on the door next year too. He came up for a few games as well for the Flyers this year, and I thought he played really, really well. He played really, really well down in the Phantoms as well. I'm also looking forward to seeing Ronnie Attard come up as well. That young man, I think, he had a really really good season down there with the Phantoms. Made the All-Star team game as well for the Phantoms, along with Elliot Deone. And so I've been very impressed with how he's progressed. I think it's time. I think he would be maybe a good match if you got to keep Provorov at least for another year, and then I would like to see Cam York play on his natural side and put somebody with Cam York to keep Cam York on his natural side. You know what I mean? And then I don't care where you put Provorov. That's kind of where I'm at on that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I like Ronnie. I think he plays the way the Flyers used to play. Darian Hatcher style. He'll stand people up at the blue line. He'll put people on their butts and regain that puck, and I really, really like that. In my defenseman. So I look forward to seeing where he's going to progress over this offseason and how he comes into camp next
exactly,
year. So
exactly. I think the message that Tortorella and Danny Briere have put out there that and they do this every year, but I think they're stressing it really hard this year is they would like to see the team stay or most of the guys stay around to train
yeah.
and whatever. And I see we're seeing some of those guys that are gonna do that, but I see some guys that are not. You know what I mean? Obviously. I mean, I get it. You spent all year here. I get you want to get away for a little while and all that, but I still think you
Yeah,
should come
take a
back and train.
family vacation or something like that, but get
Right.
back at some point over
And
the summer
train.
and get working and
Right.
you do get paid millions of dollars to do this sport. You're a professional athlete, and if you look at some of the best professional athletes of all time, a Kobe Bryant work ethic is the reason why he was so great,
Yep.
because he
There's no
would
off
be
season.
there butt crack it. Yeah, there's no off season. He would be in the gym before everybody else, hours before everybody else. He
Oh
would
yeah.
be in the gym long after practice is ended and still working on stuff. So, repetition and practice is the best key to becoming better yourself and becoming a better you. So, these guys have got to get on that level of thinking if they want to get back to the playoff contention.
It's the only way it's going to happen. It wasn't built. Rome was not built in a day, and this team is not going to be built in a season or two. It's going to take more than a season or two, and Flyers fans are just going to have to be patient. I believe that they're starting to say some of the right things, but look, the writing's been on the wall, and we've been talking about this for over 2 years, and they're just now starting to do this. Okay, so if they would have done this 2 years ago, like we asked them to, just think of how much further ahead they would be right now. So, but unfortunately, that's not the case, and they're doing it now. So this is what we have to deal with.
Right.
Let me just say this. Be looking forward to some more of these types of episodes where we want to get into the nuts and bolts of where the whole management is going to go to and things of that nature, because this is a very important step in the Flyers' future and progress, because these next few hires for the Flyers are going to determine how things are going to go for this team, I believe, for the next at least for the next 5 to 10 years. Do you know what I mean? These next couple of hires that are going to happen for the Flyers here, I think are going to really affect the team for a little while here. And I think they have an opportunity right now to make the right choices, but they just need to do it. I'm worried. You know what I mean? I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm worried.
I mean, like I said, I like what they've done so far with the firing of Dave Scott. Yep. Well, the letting him retire. I don't think that was his choice. And, the firing of Chuck Fletcher. So, that was step one that needed to happen. Now it's... I agree.
Those are step ones. Yep. I agree. Those are step ones.
Yep. So,
well, Lance, I'll tell you what, man, I think we got a great one here. We're talking about episode 120, where we just discussed a lot of the things that's going on with the Flyers currently right now. The Phantoms are doing really great. They're winning. They've won game 1 and they're playing right now in game 2. So I'd like to see those guys continue to win. And I think it's great that they're getting some of this playoff hockey experience, but it's not the same as playing in the NHL. It's not the same as playing in the NHL playoffs. So, but okay, at least they're playing now, and the big club isn't playing. So, what does that tell you? All right, Lance, why don't you tell the folks where we can get you, or we can find you, the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com.
Sure. You can catch all my articles and all our shows at SteelFlyers.com. You can look for not only this show, but Prospect Watch as well, another show that we do on Spreaker and any other audio platform, podcasting platform that you care to listen to, if you don't want to necessarily see our pretty faces there. And you can always check me out on Twitter at Lance Green 39.
Hey, Lance, why don't you lean back a little bit and show the folks what you're wearing? I believe you got a little swag. Check that out. Oh, yeah, man. If you want to get a T-shirt just like that, all you have to do is go to SteelFlyers.com/shop, and you can get a T-shirt just like that, heather gray or black, any size you need, right? $25 plus shipping and handling. All you have to do, and I'll tell you what, they wear great. They're nice shirts. Yes. They are true to size. So you order a large, it's a large. You order a 2X, it's a 2X. You order a small, it's a small. So good quality shirts, last really well in the wash. And all you have to do is go to SteelFlyers.com/shop and get yourself a T-shirt right there. You can get a Hockey Writers Ink T-shirt, or you can get a Steel Flyers T-shirt, or you could get a Pearl of Wisdom T-shirt. So check that out. Mm-hmm. Thanks everybody for
great shirts. Yeah. Fit great. Don't shrink. The emblem and everything else does not come off in the wash. Like, you don't have to do anything special to maintain it. It's just a great shirt. So
yep, for real.
Good on you.
I think we did good on the shirts anyway. But go check it out, right? Yeah. $25 plus shipping and handling, and you get a great T-shirt that comes out there, and you can show your support for the shows, and that would be great, and we'd really appreciate that. I think we got another good one here in the books, Lance. Be looking forward to some articles coming out for Lance, and I'll be looking for some things coming out too for Prospect Watch. Also, the draft is coming up here soon, so we'll be doing some things on the draft and some other things like that too. So just because the season is over for the Flyers, that doesn't mean the season's over for Hockey Writers Inc. So just remember, folks, all you have to do is go to any one of your podcasting platforms, type in Hockey Writers Inc., and hit the subscribe and hit the 5 stars, and that helps us get ranked, and that does all good for us. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc.